Freedom of speech is protected in Costa Rica, but hate speech is not tolerated. Welcome back. This is Charmel and Grecia sharing information about retiring in Costa Rica. So we're going to look at some specifics related to freedom of speech in Costa Rica. We're going to look at how things have changed over the decades. And then at the end, I'll have a link to a video segment I previously recorded related to freedom of the press. Now, a lot of this information comes from Generous Global Legal Services in 2024. Generous is GENERIS, Generous Global Legal Services in 2024. So you don't have to be an attorney to know that as an American, freedom of speech is protected in the United States Constitution. We all learned in civics class in the 8th grade or about the 8th grade that First Amendment rights include freedom of speech. Now, though that was the first amendment to the U.S. Constitution, it was passed in 1791 when the United States of America was still a very young country. So we all learned that in civics class in junior high, maybe in high school. I think it was junior high. I studied it a little bit more deeply when I was enrolled in constitutional law in college. Now, in Costa Rica, freedom of speech is a fundamental pillar of democracy, and freedom of speech is a principle enshrined in the Constitution. Article 28 protects the right to free expression, affirming that no one can be punished for expressing their opinions. Now, in 2022, Article 367 was passed, and it considers hate speech that leads to violence. So in Costa Rica, a person could be imprisoned for up to 35 years for hate speech that leads to violence. Well, let's look a little bit at the history of the issue of freedom of speech in Costa Rica. In the early 20th century, during the period of authoritarian government, censorship was prevalent. So dictators compelled the press and other organizations to operate under stringent regulations, stifling dissent. This restrictive atmosphere fostered a culture where only government-sanctioned narratives could thrive, and this curtailed the basic right to free expression. Again, all of this is coming from Generous Global Legal Services in 2024. After World War II, Costa Rica experienced a significant shift and abolished its military in 1949. The military today in Costa Rica still does not exist. We don't have a standing military. So this move in 1949 to abolish the military spurred a desire to promote democracy and civil liberties in several areas. The abolition of the army paved the way for an environment that was more conducive to free speech, except for hate speech. One significant category that is prohibited is hate speech. Hate speech is defined as the expression of an opinion that incites violence or discriminates against certain groups of people or individuals. Costa Rica law curtails expressions that promote hatred or violence based on race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, or religion. Expressions that could lead to physical harm or endanger public safety are not tolerated. This includes disseminating messages that advocate for aggression or justify acts of violence against others. In Costa Rica, online social media accounts are monitored for hate speech, and Costa Rica works in partnership with the United Nations on this issue. So in Costa Rica, a priority is protecting vulnerable individuals and vulnerable groups. Costa Rica sees reducing hate speech as part of its responsibility to protect its citizens. If you have additional information, please put it in the comments section so that we may discuss this further. If I were considering relocating to a foreign country, I would want to know about the freedoms that I might enjoy or any restrictions to those freedoms. Pura Vida, ciao.